Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. Gino Buccola alongside Scott Shapiro, producer Lucia helping us out with a big one as we head over to Kentucky Downs for Saturday for the Kentucky Turf Cup. Scott, when Kentucky Downs course was kind of new and this whole style of the big races and big purses and the short meet was just beginning. This was actually the big race. That was the one that would draw a lot of people and a lot of connections and horses, and sometimes you'd get shippers. And it's got a pretty solid field in here. You have some interesting horses who have been kind of grade two-ish towards the top of the division, but you look towards the outside and you've got the current Arlington Million winner, Fort Washington, who comes off of a career best effort that was going a little bit shorter. And the bulk of his career has been going shorter. That's where he's done all his best work. But he's become one of the top turf horses just based on his form this year and that Arlington Million win.
Right. 2.5 million for the grade two, a hefty purse for all of these, higher than the million if you can do math. But yeah, I mean, this is a tall task for Fort Washington coming in, not even listed as the favorite, whose Grand Sonata is, who finished second in here on the morning line. We'll see if that holds, but it's an intriguing race, like you said, as much history as any race could have at Kentucky Downs. This one has it. Didn't draw the biggest names of fields, but Fort Washington, a pretty good headliner.
Yeah, solid and pretty competitive. Let's move to the pace projector and we'll see how Timeform US thinks this race plays out. Mercante generally wants to sit pretty close. No surprise there. You have Vote No, who showed some speed last time out. But honestly, I think the most consistent and the horse that you can really expect to be close and maybe even on the lead is Corruption, because that's what he's been doing really well, Scott. Nothing up here shocks me to see these couple towards the front end.
I think it'll be the opposite, 10 and 5. I've seen
Great.
Mercante in races where there does not look to be a lot of speed at all, not really want the lead, but want to be right off of that leader. And it, like you said, Corruption moving up, back up in class. I think Jose Ortiz will be more than happy to take the lead. Either way, I don't see that as being a cutthroat pace
No.
whatsoever.
Not at all. Let's meet the field here for the Grade 2 Kentucky Turf Cup Invitational, race number 11 on Saturday, September the 6th, out at Kentucky Downs, and mile and a half, 2.5 million up for grabs. Scott, we start with Devon Propos. I have chased this horse a few different times because if you're a trip player, you've watched a few of his races where it looks like he's gotten stuck, maybe in some traffic. Maybe there have been races where it seems like they've been kind of holding him and they could have let him loose a little bit earlier on. All that being said, he feels like a tricky horse to ride. And he's going to be coming into a new barn for the first time. He comes into the Safi Joseph Jr. barn. I certainly think there's some talent and there's some ability there. I always wish he was closer in the races than he ends up being. I just want him to be up more forward. I didn't know what to do with him in this spot, grade 3 placed. I'm just going to toss the San Juan. He just didn't really fire that day. And he's shown that he can hit the board against graded stakes company. I kind of hem and haw with him a little bit. What do you do with Devon Propos?
Well, he's a huge price, so attacking him in any way would be kind of silly. But I can knock him much more easier than I could
Yeah.
feel good about him. Only 3 work since moving into the new barn. Showed up at Saratoga. It looks like mid-August. They found this spot. I don't know how they procured him. It looks like maybe just the owners changed coast basically, but he's just kind of a cup below though. Frankie's riding well though over this course. It's
Yeah.
good to see he's getting some big wins for himself. So I mean, I wouldn't knock anybody trying to sneak him into the number.
Yeah, and the thing about Frankie that I've noticed too, he gets a little aggressive and he can put horses on the front end, which is one something I thought about Frankie Dettori a few years back before really watching him all the time in Southern California. So don't be shocked if this horse is maybe involved in the race a little bit more and just trying to shake something up a little bit. As we move to El Razine, they'll take the blinkers off. He could really like a turf course like this that's kind of deep and fitness based because distance seems like it's never been a problem for him. He just isn't really stepping forward all that much. His last 2 races are fine, and he's still early in his 4-year-old season, so he does have the ability to continue to move forward, Scott. I think the biggest concern I have with him is just his lack of early speed. He just seems like he has to come from way out of it. Sometimes when they're going so long, they don't fly up front early. They don't really set it up for him all that well. So 3rd start off the bench. Irad is aboard off of that crazy incident last weekend. What do you do with El Razine in here?
Well, I mean, what happens when you're way out of it also is kind of what happened to him in the Sword Dancer when he saved ground much of the way, but then he had to swing so wide it gives you
Yep.
very little chance.
No,
No,
less
I don't.
options, right? When you're just way behind everyone.
Right, you're not usually gonna have a chance to come swing up the inside leg, or not swing, move up the inside. The blinkers coming back off for the first time since his maiden win does not feel great before a $2.5 million race. Irad getting back aboard, despite the injury barely somehow. He was riding as well as anybody there. I don't want to discount this horse to hit the board as well, but another one that I feel is up against it from a win
He's just not
perspective.
coming into the race in how you would like him to in the best of form. One of his better races could compete. We moved to Tawnyport. He's over his last 13. His last victory was back in August of 2023. He did perk up recently, Scott. He actually showed different tactics. Normally, Tawnyport has been kind of sitting close in some of these more marathon races. This race was going 2+ miles in the Gold Cup Invitational just last week. He was way out of it, and he kind of picks up some pieces. He never runs a winning race, right? You can see him just kind of grinding into second there. What do you take out of that race, and what do we do with Tawnyport?
Man, I mean, those 2 in a mile 16th race, that was, not to knock the situation, but that was not one of the stronger $1 million races you'll ever see. And that German, I think that was a German horse, I think, that
Yep.
won the race, just did it under such wraps. If anybody's going to take a lot out of that race, I'm going to not, because I just don't think it has a lot of meaning. Plus, now he's coming back on quick rest. This is the Ohio Derby winner, who has a 3-year-old that's kind of reinvented himself. I think he's up against it.
Let's move from Tawnyport over to Vote No, Scott. Thought kind of a long shot in here. Is proven over this turf course. And I think at Kentucky Downs, one thing to mention, it's a unique turf course. So you always want to upgrade horses who have run well over it, who have shown that they can win over this turf course. They put him on the front end last time in the Sword Dancer. Don't really think that's what he wants, because you can look a few starts back. He's actually been better when he had a target and he could come from off the pace. I just think he's outclassed in this field.
Most likely, it's interesting you have Louis Saez, another aggressive rider aboard. He's one of the keys to the pace of the race. If he's ridden aggressively from the inside, it might heat this up a little more
Yep.
than we just talked about. Vote No, an interesting horse. I never thought that well, I shouldn't say I never thought, I didn't think about it much, but he was kind of a sprinter, maybe a miler for a while. I knew him at Turfway Park. The pedigree certainly there to go along. So he's kind of, I don't hate to use the word reinvented as a 4-year-old, but he certainly has found a new dimension in these longer races.
He went pretty quick last time out, too. It wasn't like he just got the lead going 50 and change. Like, he was intent on getting the lead there. We move to the number 5, Mercante. He's a grade 3 winner. He's grade 1 placed. I mean, you can look at his last string of 5 races, and they're really, really solid. And from February to May, those races on turf and synthetic, in the Kentucky Club Classic, in the Turf Classic, and in the grade 3 Arlington, those were excellent. After the grade 3 Arlington, Scott, he was supposed to run at Churchill Downs. He was pointing to a race at the end of he was pointing to a race in June, and before that race he had to scratch. His connections didn't seem like he was doing all that well, and I think that may have impacted him a little bit in his most recent race, because you can look at his pattern of races and his work pattern. He might have just been a little bit behind. He misses some time from June to July. You see he shows back up in July with a couple works, and then he works July the 26th, right before running in on August the 2nd. We don't see him work at all again until most recently, but I think he was just needing a little bit of time off, needing to kind of time things better after missing it. I'm expecting him to take a pretty big step forward in that race. He just was a little flat late there, but it's not like he ran poorly.
I should get a good trip. I could see it going both ways. The fact that he missed that race and things weren't great, and then he was kind of flat last out, which I'll make an excuse for in a second. But you could argue maybe we've seen the best of him,
And he's
at
going
least.
the other way, right?
Right. You could argue that, but I think last race more was just a case of a mile. He didn't get into the race like he likes to. He was more mid-pack, sharper race. They went pretty quick early. The winner was a long shot that came up the rail. He was on the outside. I think the rail was pretty good at Ellis that day. There's lots of reasons to like Mercanti to run well in here, I think.
Super honest. We move to Grand Sonata, who actually won this race last year over Highway Robber and Tawnyport. Most recently, he was second in the Arlington Million behind Fort Washington, who we'll talk about in just a moment. He's honest. He's solid. He's fine. Scott, to me, he's the kind of horse who I like playing when he's 10-1 or 12-1. I generally don't like to play him when he's a shorter price because he's not the most consistent horse that you can always count on getting into the winner's circle. He usually runs a good race. I just like to bet him when he's a bigger price. And in this race, he's probably going to be one of the shorter prices.
He's the morning line favorite. I do think that maybe he'll be the second or third choice. He hasn't won a lot of races recently. He was just beaten by the Arlington Million winner, like you said, for Washington in that race. And I agree. I mean, I think this horse has a very good shot to run his race. He won this race a year ago, right? And he's got maybe the affinity for the configuration is why the morning line. So he's the slight morning line favorite, but he did ride the rail got a really good trip last time, and Fort Washington had a much further voyage than him and still couldn't beat him. So to me, at the price, I would agree that I don't like to bet him at this price in this race particularly. Sorry.
Absolutely agree too. He was second best last time out. He ran his race, and you could make more of an excuse for Fort Washington. Sounds like we're both similar on Grand Sonata. Utah Beach is a multiple graded stakes winner. He's certainly capable of better than his last race. Scott, that was a tough race. I know that was the grade 1 sword dancer. I mean, you go back 2 and 3 starts to the Louisville and the Elkhorn, he's winning really nicely in those races. He's earning 100 buyer speed figure. He can win races like this going long on the turf. And he's run well at Kentucky Downs before. He just comes into this race not off of a couple wins, and that may help you when it comes to price.
Yeah, softer field he beat, but did so at this same distance, which is obviously always a positive here. Might be up against it if the pace doesn't heat up a little more than we expect it to, but he's honest. And it's interesting. Joel Rosario is probably a pretty good fit on this course for this horse in his first. Looks like it's the first time he's been aboard in his second start off the bench.
Old Crazy Bone, a strange feeling of deja vu here, Scott. I feel like I started talking about this horse a moment ago as we get to Old Crazy Bone and Anglophile, who both come out of the same prep race on August the 3rd over at Ellis Park. What I like about Old Crazy Bone is he came from way out of it last time out, and that was the first start for Maker off the claim. He's actually shown us previously that he can sit closer in races. He's got a little versatility to him. And man, this is the type of thing that Mike Maker does. Claims horses like this, especially in route turf races, and is able to move them up pretty quickly. So Flavian Pratt jumps aboard as well. I mean, I'm looking at Old Crazy Bone with lots of positives here, Scott. I think he might be a sneaky horse at a fair price.
Yeah, Amber Cascade is another one of the makers that ran second, a distant second in his stakes at Saratoga, claimed by Maker. This one, 100,000. I mean, he's made a career out of this move, stretching this one back out to 1.5 miles. Was 3 wide in the first turn last time. Other than that, got a pretty good trip with a favorable flow. But now you get Flavian Pratt, plenty to like.
We move to Anglophile. He was just inside of Old Crazy Bone when they started moving. He made the early wide move to Anglophile, and I thought it was an okay effort. He opened up a little early on, and he ends up just getting nailed late. He finishes 3rd. So you wonder maybe about distance with him, getting this distance at 1.5 miles at Kentucky Downs. That's not an easy turf distance to get the 1.5 miles.
No, but he's got another horse that's had success over this course, so I like that. He's got a win over it. And I do think Declan Cannon, who I'm a little partial to, I know Declan fits this horse better than a guy like Florent Giroux. I think the added ground will benefit him here. Not a horse that's won a lot of races recently, but I like, he's going to be a pretty big price, I suspect. And I think he's got a pretty good. I know I've said a lot of horses have a good shot to hit the board. I guess it speaks to the openness of the race.
And he's proven at Kentucky Downs as a win over the course too. We move to Corruption, Scott. I think he's just a major player in here. He's won 5 of his last 7, grade 3 placed. He was 4th in the grade 1 Manhattan, and that race has come back very strong so far. The winner, Deterministic, came back to win next time out. Far Bridge came back to win their next time out. And Integration was in there, I think came back to run 3rd in the Arlington Million. Corruption is right here winning most recently on July the 30th at Saratoga. And in the Manhattan, he didn't get the lead. And I think that's maybe the difference for this type of a horse. Getting the lead or sitting close, that's his biggest weapon, Scott. When he's able to use that speed as a weapon, I think he's a very, very nice horse. I could see him and his type of speed playing very well at Kentucky Downs too. I just think he's a major player in here, and I feel like the race may go through him and how he controls it early on.
Yeah, you make good points here. Maybe it's the fact that I didn't claim him for 35,000 when I could have earlier this year that I'm holding against him. But he's slowly proven it over these last couple of races. Not the last one. The last race was really a layup for him. I mean, I
Yeah.
thought he couldn't lose the race. But the fourth in the Manhattan was definitely against better horses than he meets here, and going to get the right trip, like you said. So maybe going to have to upgrade corruption after speaking with you this afternoon.
Yeah, the race I liked was really the Pan American when he was right there behind Far Bridge. I thought that kind of proved he's got some class, he's got some ability to level up. Because before that, he was a horse who I was thinking he was winning in situations that were like kind of easy for him. I wasn't sure how classy he was. I think he fits pretty well as we move to Fort Washington. What a cool horse, Scott. He's now a 6-year-old, and you just rarely see these horses getting better at this point of their career. But that's what's happened, and that's just a testament to Shug McGahee and how he trains horses. He's not the type of trainer who's cranking horses up and trying to get them to win first time out. He lets horses develop, he lets horses mature. And this is a horse who's really, really rewarded him. He's won 3 of his last 4 races, all of those graded stakes. And he has trips that a lot of times are the tough trips, and he wins with those where he has to go really wide and cover more ground. He's just a very honest horse. But if I want to go the opposite side, he is not proven at this distance. He's never been a mile and a half. He's only been a mile and 3/8 once, and he ran 8 that day in the UN. So you want to go back and forth. I respect what he's done, Scott, but this is going to be something that's new to him.
I think he's a play against it here. As much as I love him, he was good to me beating Grand Sonata in the million last out. I think he's a super cool horse, and he finishes super well. But these horses that come rolling late and aren't proven at the distance, they're oftentimes they're just not going to have that straight, that's as strong a late kick. And then you had the fact that we're worried about the pace. I thought the pace was, clearly going to be more honest for him, even though it wasn't that crazy in the million. I think the questions here, you have an outside post, are too many to accept what I think is going to be 4-1 or so in a race like this.
As we move to selections, just want to give a reminder, if you're someone who maybe has Spanish as your first language, we are covering the races out at Kentucky Downs with DRF in Espanol, and Roberto Rodriguez out there just does a fantastic job. So if that is something that is more comfortable, that's more natural for you, remember, we have the options for DRF in Espanol, and they are live on site all throughout the Kentucky Downs meet, doing a great job over there. Let's move to selections. Scott, you're going to take a swing in here. You're going to go with the 9 Anglophile, 9-5-6-2 for you. Talk to us a little bit about how you played this one.
Yeah, I don't have a horse that I really love on top in here, and I think Anglophile is more likely to hit the board. Hasn't won a lot of races of late, but has the win over the course. I like the way Declan fits this horse, so I picked him on top, making him more a horse I want to key around in the race because I wouldn't bet any of these shorter prices to win. I do think Mercanti though is going to in a really good spot.
That's the thing. If you want to take something out of this race, that both Scott and I aren't quite the biggest fans of. Fort Washington in this spot, Grand Sonata in this spot. They may be horses that are shorter prices than what you want to take. I agree that Mercante should bounce back quite a bit. I kind of had him as the horse to beat. I put him in the 3rd spot. I used the 10 and the 8 as 2 horses I think I could maybe find some value with. Corruption, if he is in that 4-1 ish and above, I think that may offer some value. And then Old Crazy Bone is another one who could be double-digit odds there. So 9-5-6-2 for Scott, 10-8-5-11 for me. Whoever you play, however you play them, we wish you the best of luck.